With the final chapter of Top Boy being released and the ending of the show finishing in a way that took all of us by surprise, it concluded with a massive question out there. Who killed Sully in the closing moments? Well, I thought I'd tell you who I feel did it, along with lining up all of the main suspects and elaborating on what their motive could have been. So let's get into it. Here is Who Killed Sully in Top Boy Season 3. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Jax. There are 2 or 3 individuals that I think are the most likely options for being the suspects in taking out Sully. The first of these is Jax, and I feel like she's the most likely culprit out of them all. Things weren't left on the best of terms between both Sully and Jax following her taking the food, and with Sully saying that Jax didn't get a free pass following Deshane robbing her, it meant that she could have been killed by Sully at any moment in the future. I personally don't think that she wanted to leave the chance of being alive the next day up to fate. Plus, something to remember as well is that Sully was responsible for the killing of Kieran, Jax's brother and long-term friend, which was something that she single-handedly felt responsible for getting him involved, as we saw in this scene in the finale. So I think the motive of revenge, whilst also doing it to protect herself, Bex and the baby, provides enough substance to warrant a motive for Jax to be behind it. The look on her face the final time that we saw her when she told Bex that everything was going to be alright showed that there was something dark going on inside of her head. When looking at the physical appearance of the individual outside of the car, it's difficult to gauge height due to the camera angle and the way that the camera was positioned in a slightly upright fashion. But when moving through the scene slowly, it very much looked like they were wearing the attire that Jax was wearing when she went into the house and took the food from the basement. Whilst it's something that anybody could just throw on, and it's just all black to conceal identity, knowing that only moments earlier in the show she was wearing something similar, it definitely adds weight behind the theory. I know there's going to be some arguments of the suspect having blonde or brown hair, but I don't think that's the case at all. If you look at how the sunlight hits the jacket towards the bottom of it, it hits the top of the head in the exact same way, so I just think they've got a hood up and the sun is making it look like a different colour. The Irish. The second most likely suspect that I think it could be is the Irish. Within this new season of the show, we saw that a new gang was introduced to us, led by Tague but with operations being run by Johnny in London. The pair were killed by Sully way before the end of Season 3. We saw that these individuals were big dogs. They took out the Moroccans with no effort whatsoever because there was no news spread that there was trouble, so they clearly meant business and were efficient. With the 2 figureheads of the gang being killed by Sully, word could have gotten back to Ireland, and they could have sent somebody out to come and get revenge for the attack and killing that Sully did to them. It's a simple retaliation, and one that would be expected from any gang following an attack, unless the Irish dismantled following what happened, but I find that hard to believe. The only thing that makes me question that it's them is that it went against what we saw them do earlier on in the season with the whole box to Tash thing. So whilst the motive is there and a retaliation being something that one would expect, it does mean that it could well have been them. Cy. Cy is the suspect that I head towards after Jax and the Irish. I think it could have been him for a number of different reasons. Cy was always rocking with Jamie back in the day and was part of his crew, way before Jamie joined forces with Deshane in the beginning of Season 4. So there was loyalty to Jamie which was present. Within this season, we saw that Stefan admitted to Cy that he knew that it was Sully that killed Jamie, a suspicion that Cy had had for a while. So the motive for revenge is something that would definitely be there, to honour his brother who was killed. Towards the end of the season, we saw a scene where Sully essentially accused Cy of taking the food, and we went on to see a horrific moment taking place, where Sully essentially rendered Cy into a complete mess. It was so difficult to watch, and I imagine that could have been a moment that just clicked inside of Cy's mind, and it may have added an extra motive there, to just get rid of the person that he detests more than anybody in the world. Whilst Cy hasn't necessarily come across as the toughest of them all before, with Deshane gone, Jax no longer by Sully's side, Kieran gone, and Sully's new guy, Junior, gone, Sully was kind of on his own now when it came to having protection around him, so fueled with revenge in his mind for Jamie, and also for what Sully did to him when he entered the flat, he might have just thought that it was his time to act. Whilst there's not a ton of evidence that would point to it, I would say that it's definitely a viable option. Stefan. Even though we had the face-off with Stefan and Sully right at the end of the season finale, we know that there was full motive there for Stefan to take Sully out. His entire story arc was focused around him getting ready to do it. However, personally, I think this is a very unlikely option. The only reason he's made it into this video is because he had a weapon on him. He was in the vicinity of the car, and moments earlier he was holding the weapon up to Sully, so there is a strong chance that it could well have been him, and Stefan could have changed his mind. But with the conversation that we saw moments earlier, personally, I don't think it is. Aaron. Aaron was Jamie's brother as well, and there's some theories floating around that it could have been him. Whilst yes, there is a motive there for him to want to get revenge, but let's be honest, Aaron wasn't made for the streets, nor would he be the type of person to do something like that in broad daylight. He wasn't even around to be there for Steph following their brother's death, which did surprise me. He was working up in Leeds instead. He cares more for the books than he does blood, so I don't think it was him despite there being some theories. Ronell. Nah, I'm doing this one for a joke as there's no chance that it was him. But including Ronell is symbolic of why the ending was so powerful and left unidentified. Ronell never liked Sully, and Sully never liked Ronell, ever since he killed Leon back in the first season of Summer House. This was Ronell's father figure. This could have been something that was burning up inside of him, and now that he was an adult, he could have looked to have finally got revenge for it. That's almost the beauty of this ending. It could well have been Ronell, because there's nothing to say that it's not. Revenge isn't planned, and Sully didn't expect to die when he got in the car. So the darkness of the show and the prominence of revenge can hit you out of the blue, just like that, especially if you've crossed a lot of people. Over the years, Sully had made so many enemies that he himself couldn't even keep up with who wanted him dead. The beauty of this ending and the fact that we'll most likely never know who it was that killed him highlights the brutality of the lifestyle that he chose to lead on the streets. And whilst even though he was spared by one person who wanted to kill him, Stefan, it didn't mean that he was safe. There was always somebody else that was out there that had been impacted by a murder that he committed, so he was never going to be safe. The streets caught up with him, and eventually they took him. There was never going to be an easy way out, and Sully met his end. Personally, I think it's Jax. The motive, the attire, and the fact that she stood to gain the most from Sully being gone, which was freedom and the fact that she didn't need to look over her shoulder anymore. But hey, I guess this is one that I imagine there's going to be divisive debates over. So, there you have it, Top Boy Season 3, Who Killed Sully? If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Who do you think did it? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.